Hey guys and girls, today we are jumping on with senior international coach, Coach Camargo of Ole Concepts, and we're going to kind of be talking a little bit about the business side of weightlifting and kind of growing the programs and going kind of expanding into online training and then running large teams and kind of how to best organize that or take that approach. And obviously, Coach Camargo is an expert in that. He's been in the game for a very long time. And so we're going to just kind of hang out here for a little bit, let people jump on, and then we'll wait for Coach to jump on, and we'll have a little bit of a chat with him. My goal is to kind of talk to him about, um, the growing from inside the gym and out. So not only growing your club within, but the best approach is to also organizing and running a smooth online program. And on top of that, once you start to kind of grow, how do you continue to manage all of those athletes and clients? And what's the best way to kind of continue to make sure that they're getting everything that they need as far as personally, while also being able to manage and run a large gym, which is definitely a challenge for many coaches. Is as you grow, what steps do you need to take to ensure that you're offering the same quality or ideally even better quality as you continue to grow. So we're going to hang out here for just a little bit. We'll wait for Coach to jump on, and then we'll get this thing started. And yeah, if you guys have questions throughout, feel free to drop them into the comments, or if y'all have questions right now, go ahead and drop them, and I'll try to make sure that we get around to it. I obviously have a few questions myself. Oh, there he is. Let's go ahead and get him on.
I'm home.
Hey, Coach, how's it going?
Wow, man, very good, very good. As good as it can be, I guess, during these times, right?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. It seems like every day something new is happening, something's going on. I mean, we had to close our gym early last night just because we have curfews out here right now.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. What about you guys? Are y'all back in the gym yet out
Wide
there?
open.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah, wide open. It began with, the concern of everything, and then a week or two later, it was gyms are allowed to stay open, but there were limitations, like how
Hmm.
many, how many, how many clients, how many bodies per, per session or athletes they were allowed for us to have, and we did that for a little bit, and then it turned into full shutdown.
Mm.
Uh, Full shutdown was probably, I'd say, 4 weeks, but then they opened it wide up, and we're back to business. I mean, it's different looking business around town, but
Yeah,
it's we're wide open.
that's good. That's good. Well, we still have some. They kind of did the same thing. They progressively like limited us as they were shutting down. Went through the full shutdown. We were shut down for about 2 months, and
Damn.
then but now they're starting to kind of. They first let us come back at 25%. Right now
Okay.
we're at 50%. Um, which isn't bad. I mean, with weightlifting, at least we can just kind of
Hmm.
assign one person to a platform, and
I'll
it's
take it
pretty
from.
easy to meet the
Thank you,
restrictions
sir.
that we have.
Yeah. Well, where exactly? What town are you in?
I'm in Fort Worth, Texas, so we're just outside of Dallas.
Okay, so if you're outside of Dallas, is the rest of the state under the same principle that you just or conditions, or is it a little
As
different
far
county to
as
county?
Yeah, as far as I know, it's everything is being pretty much state ran and state restricted, which is obviously Texas is really big, and we're a high concentration city, so it makes a little bit more sense for us. But yeah, I mean, we got countryside. But on the other hand, they're also not really cracking down. I mean, I know gyms outside in the country area that just stayed open
Yeah,
and nobody did anything about it. So I think it's also kind of a, we're not going to crack down on that, but I think they're really trying to hit like the DFW area, the Austin area, the Houston area,
yeah.
really making sure that we're, being careful.
Yeah,
But
yeah. And I'm sure there's other gyms that are not supposed to do what they do, but they're still doing it anyway.
yeah.
I mean, let's just be real, sliding people in, maybe some private lessons and just as long as you're staying safe, I'm not saying I condone it, but listen, sometimes my ears hear things, so
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had some athletes that just started driving an hour to go to some gym out in the country that they knew was staying open because it was like their only option. And
right?
that gym was already small. It was safe. So,
Yeah,
agreed. You got to do what you got to do. Luckily,
yeah,
luckily we were able to withstand the couple months and our athletes really stuck with it. We kind of handed out our equipment and let them continue to train.
yeah.
So, we're back at it and the restrictions aren't too bad for us. We're able to run enough people. We're doing like every couple hours time slots, and
Yeah.
so we're pretty close to running back to normal. So it's getting there.
Yeah, yeah, I've also done the same, and it just sounds like we're just almost in the same spot. But man, I really feel bad that you thought Florida was pretty hard hit. The South Florida, Miami area from me was pretty hard hit, and
Yeah.
they are still closed, actually. But I'm in Orlando. I'm about a 4-hour drive north of
Hmm.
Miami. I'm Central Florida, and we're back to normal, man.
Okay, so they didn't do it completely statewide. They started opening up different areas.
County by
Yeah,
county, county by county.
yeah. I really think that that's what they should be doing in something as big as like Texas too. You know,
Sure.
they
Yeah, I
should
would
be
agree.
alleviating some of these small businesses.
Yeah.
But we also have some of the hard-headed people who are just like, well, we're not going to close down anyways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, we get a little bit of all that too.
cool, man. Well, I wanted to jump on here today because I did a chat with Coach Adam Check
Mhm.
not too long ago, and we were kind of talking about everything going on because I think he's still shut down and how important the online training was and all that. And he was like, "Well, you want to talk about business and organizing all that stuff? You need to get on with Camargo and chat with him." So I definitely wanted to take advantage of that, and it was awesome that as soon as I reached out to you, you were like, "Yeah, let's organize it." So I really appreciate that, man. That's awesome.
No, you're welcome. Listen, the way I see it, we're coaches. We should be sharing information. To be honest with you, during this kind of issue, we may, and you and I have even done so, competed against
Hmm.
each other, with our athletes, right?
Yeah,
But I think at the moment we're all on the same team, man.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, nobody wants to see any gym suffering right now,
Mm-mm.
and yeah, the more we can get out there and help. And
Yeah.
with the free time, my goal has been trying to get on here and talk to some coaches and just get some information out there as much as we can.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
sure. I'm glad to help. I'll do what I can. I don't think I have the whole remote coaching thing down perfect yet, but
yeah,
I've struggled enough to be able to make better decisions lately. So yeah,
cool. Well, yeah, I got some questions about that, but then also just some general, growing your club questions as well.
yeah,
But kind of starting with so I started out when I opened up my gym. I mean, I had nothing remote. My whole goal was just to get people in and start training them personally. I was kind of even a little bit anti the remote coaching for a while
me too.
because I didn't think it was effective. I came from a gymnastics background, so everything was in-person training, and I was like, you can't effectively coach somebody online.
Hmm.
As things progressed, I started kind of leaning a little bit more into it, but I had like a lot of restrictions. You had to live kind of within the area. That way I could still see you every now and then. And ideally, they wouldn't be beginners. I was never going to train a beginner kind of remotely. So eventually, as I got more, some more maybe experienced athletes, I was like, okay, we can do a little bit more of a remote thing because I can give you something and you're comfortable to go work on it by yourself for a little while. But that being said, I never really had a large online training or really expanded that area, primarily out of the fear of one, how effectively can I coach them? and then not being able to see them on a regular basis, and then uh, two, like how to manage my time inside the gym, but also be able to coach a large number of remote athletes. I don't want to be in the gym and just be staring at my phone watching videos all day.
Yes.
And so just trying to find that balance of being able to expand the gym into something more online, because I think that's the route that a lot of people are needing to take to be able to run a business full time and make a full time living as a weightlifting coach. And especially seeing how important it was over the last few months,
Yeah.
um, but be able to also offer my time and give my people that are coming into the gym, what they expect and what I've been offering them and the attention that they need.
Yeah, that's such a huge, tough balance, and I've screwed that one up a few times.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
So your question is in that one, how do we do it? Or would you like to hear what I went through or what I'm doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. So your experience, and then maybe some of the mistakes that you made that you've corrected, so that way us trying to really get it off the ground, we kind of maybe have a little bit better direction or can avoid some of the issues that you've ran into.
Yeah. Well, like you, and I'll start off by saying, for many years I resisted the remote coaching thing.
Hmm.
I too felt it was not real coaching.
Yeah.
It was less about me and it was more about the person, meaning I felt like I would be like robbing from them and stealing
Hmm.
from them, you know. Weightlifting was a hobby my entire life. It was not a business. I've had to make a business out of it to be able to make a living off of your passion. And I mean, that sounds wonderful. And you know what it is? I'm living an absolute dream, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I brag about that because I'm proud of it, and I'm living an absolute dream. But it didn't come easy because what do I know about charging somebody
Hmm.
for weightlifting? You know, I gave free weightlifting because it's just what you did back in the day.
Yeah.
So even after I started my gym and then I started getting the requests for remote coaching, and at one point, more through strength and conditioning, more through CrossFit than weightlifting,
Hmm.
the idea of remote coaching just boomed overnight
Yeah.
years ago, and I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And I'm sure maybe if I had got into it back then, I would have made a ton of money. And I remember being encouraged by my colleagues, Danny, you can make a ton of money doing this. And I'm like, yeah, but what am I really doing? I think I'm misleading people. Well,
Yeah.
I'll just cut it short and say what made me fold on that was I started realizing, and I actually came across one particular young lady who was alone in a garage. She had no access to coaching in her area, and we connected one way, and just free watched a video for her and gave her some suggestions on working out, and it was free. I just did it to be nice, and
Yeah.
then it actually worked, you know.
Yeah.
And I go, wait a minute, so I actually can help people over the internet, and it did. And she stayed with me as a remote athlete, one of my first few for many years, and then I said, okay, so maybe I can do this. All right, now how do I do it? My biggest mistake, it sounds like something you were already battling with or
Hmm.
have come across, and it's balance.
Yeah.
I was that floor coach multiple times, trying to live coach my people, but damn it, I'm getting these messages on my phone, and there's a video, and they need me too,
Yeah.
and they may not be because there's one thing, and I'll tell everyone that's who's joined us now, and I'll tell you, I'm currently, nor have I really ever offered um, Zoom training or
Hmm.
Skype live training. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't offer it because I can't quite fit it with enough quality right now.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like running another practice time, you know,
Hmm.
and then where do I put that time, you know? And if it's a one-on-one, which is okay, that does take away from my team training or my admin work because I'm also a gym owner. So I don't offer that. I've clearly started to offer that during the pandemic, which was new to do. But
Hmm.
I was still very stressed out, trying to stay on my computer or answer videos while I had a team in front of my face. Well, as you can imagine, that really didn't go well. And the thing is, I didn't know that I was doing that, or they were doing a poor job of that until, of course, it came to my attention. And I think the best coaches out there have just enough humility to reflect and understand and make a change and just do better.
Yeah.
It's not no argue or fight about. You have to listen. I may be self-employed and work for myself, but the reality is, I don't. My boss is my clientele. So
Yeah.
I had to find that balance. What I ended up doing next is now scheduling, doing the best I could to say, all right, all of my satellites, all of my remote, and I call it satellite because much like you, I require some in-person time throughout the year.
Yeah.
I have had down here in Orlando, Florida. I've had over time. Currently have one athlete all the way in Montana from where I'm at. But throughout a year, with all of my travel, certs, and seminars, I'm usually in somebody's region. They'll take a short commute, and I will meet them somewhere.
That's cool.
Very cool, very cool. I'm
Yeah.
blessed because of that.
Yeah.
That wasn't intentional. That just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
Competitions is also a time. All right, if I have an athlete going to the junior nationals and they live so far away from me, well, I'll say let's meet a couple of days before the junior nationals. Let's maybe get there or stay behind an extra day. So sometime in around the competition that we are both competing in anyway, let's get some extra floor time.
Yeah.
So I have never really offered remote coaching in its traditional sense where I'm writing workouts for a complete stranger that I'll never meet. So I've not really quite done that
Yeah.
necessarily. But getting those people and say, okay, listen, I have this for you. Please respond, but it's got to be daytime hours, expected day, and you have to set the boundaries.
Hmm.
And it sounds bad when you say it like that. I have to set these boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
You make it sounds very discouraging, but there's really no other way to say is here is how athlete I want to be treated as your coach, because we have to offer that same respect to the athlete, right?
Yeah.
Right. Athlete, what do you like to be told? What do you like? What's you get to know the people, and in knowing
Yeah.
the people, what cues work for them. In competition, here's an example. In competition, it's really important to ask the athlete if we have a bad day,
Hmm.
how would you like to be treated,
Yeah.
right? Um, what do you want to be told when you have a shitty day? It happens. Do you want the aggressive, get your head out of your butt kind of attitude?
Hmm.
Do you want to be coddled? Do you want to be left alone? There are athletes who say, give me a day, coach, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The problem with what I just said is that we tend to ask them after the fact instead of beforehand.
Yeah,
Uh,
that was the point I was just about to make. I really
yeah.
like that, like what you just suggested is, we always have like our game plan. They fill out a form prior to competition, but something that's not in there is anything along like the emotional side prior
Right.
to, when we start missing how do we want to handle that? And I think that's really good. But we do after meet follow-ups, and then we kind of talk about that. But I almost like this pre-meet,
Yep.
hey, worst case scenario, how do we need to handle this? Even
Yeah.
before we go into it. That's really good. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And it's funny because I'm also have to be cautious of how that comes across. Hey, athlete. Hey, in case you have a bad day tomorrow,
Yeah,
we're,
yeah, yeah.
uh, so I prefer to kind of, and you can call it semantics, it's call me a sugarcoater, call me whatever, but it's effective communication, honestly. And I
Mhm.
tend to ask that question with, okay, listen, if things don't go, the right way, I'm being productive here. How do I get you out of it? How do I save
Yeah.
you? How do I save you? And let me tell you something. Every human being has that answer.
Hmm.
And if they don't know it, do your best. You'll know it after it happens. All
Oh
right.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So if we can take that full circle back into this conversation, I think it goes two ways, Coach. I think we need to tell the athletes, okay, athlete, here's how I want to be treated, athlete.
Hmm.
I want your videos on these days or weeks or hours out of the day, if there are any videos.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like feedback on certain scenarios, perhaps. And when you set those, again, I know they're called boundaries, but what you're doing is laying out the most effective way to be a team together.
Yeah.
And that's all it really, is. So please, athlete, do not send me Christmas morning your video asking me to analyze it, because it's actually happened. And it happened before I had to tell people, don't do
Yeah.
that to me. Hey, Hey, coach.
Yeah, and it's really hard.
Yeah, very hard. Go ahead.
It's
Yeah,
really
very
hard
hard.
as a coach to not like in the middle of a session and I get a video and I know that they're training right then.
Yeah.
It's really hard not to give that immediate feedback as a coach. And
Yes.
so even though I might say I'm only going to answer you during these hours, but it's even if they're sending them outside those hours, it's sometimes really hard as a coach to
Oh
like
my God.
to not. And so I like that. And so I've sometimes tried to say I'll only answer on these days at these times, but I also like what you're saying. Tell them when you want the information too.
Yeah, right. And so
Yeah.
it's fun. So it's funny that you say that. And if I can chime in and piggyback, I have tried that. It's effective too and it works. But I've tried that. Hey, listen, hold off on the videos or hold off on the email, hold off on the text
Yeah.
until these time. And here's how they will answer. Oh, but coach, I just did it so that I don't forget.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And I'm over here thinking, like, what am I, your notification reminder? Why do you send
Uh-huh.
it to me as a way to remind you to send it to me? Just remind yourself. Remind
Yeah.
yourself
Yeah.
to wait. However, it's I battle with the same thing, so I'm so glad you said that. But the problem is, I tend to I prefer messages go through email,
Mm.
and that might be old school. I might be old, but I can flag them. I can record them. I can document them better. I can get back to them better. Text messaging, the problem with it is there's so many in a single day, sometimes just trivial conversations
Yeah.
with multiple people. Things get overlooked in text
Yeah. Yeah.
messages. And not only that, but when someone hits send on a text, there is some expectation of a quicker response.
Mm.
And you can't always do that in text
Yeah.
message. You send an email, you don't expect it in 30 seconds. You're all
Yeah.
right for a day. And I don't want that pressure. So you know what? I completely sympathize with how you feel. If you see it on your phone, now it has to be addressed and it has to
Yeah.
be handled. So
And then part of it is because of me too, because of what you just said is if I get a text message video and then I know that I told this person I'm not going to respond until Tuesday these hours, now I have to remember to go back and find this message that like
right.
you said might be buried. And so then sometimes when I don't reply right away, something will go unanswered and then that again that can kind of look poorly or the athlete's a
Yeah.
little bit disappointed that hey you didn't respond to this video I sent you 2 weeks ago and I'm like oh I'm so sorry it got
Yes.
buried in messages and I lost it.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I
And
really like that email approach because you can flag them, you can put them in its own folder if you want, you can really get it more organized than a stream of text messages.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And too many of those, I'm sorry, athlete, it got buried. I didn't mean to. And it's excusable. You're human.
Yeah.
They will understand it, but too many of those
Hmm.
will create some sort of resentment.
Yeah.
And I don't have to tell you or the followers or the people who are attending this live video chat right now. We do see a trend, and athletes are going from online programming to coach to
Hmm.
coach to coach. Some of them are really good reasons. Some of
Yeah.
them are good reasons. Several who've left my own gym, my own programming, good reasons. You leave a coach, you leave a program because perhaps at some point, whether it's a very short-lived experience or a long one, you and coach no longer have the same goals in mind. You don't see things the same way. It's not an argument. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the athlete has grown to want something different than what the coach has in line, and now just principles or kind of your values or cores or goals are just not in line anymore.
Hmm.
And that's okay. That's
Yeah.
absolutely fine. But not leave for reasons of greener grass or because your friends are on a different team or something
Yeah.
looks prettier or something that's temporary. And it's really frustrating because we coaches really treat and put a lot of effort into these athletes,
Hmm.
especially their emotional offloading moments.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
tears and tantrums, man. I think I have a whole book on how to handle that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's happened over time. But the thing is, it does take two. It
Hmm.
does take two. I have a young lady right now. As a matter of fact, been with me for about a year. I say about a year and a half now, and we're getting to a point where some of the things we're trying are not working, and we're constantly trying something new. But she has taken the time to sit with me and say, this is what I think I feel I need. If I disagreed,
Yeah.
that would be a problem. But I don't necessarily disagree. In fact, it's not what I would want. But if she wants this, why not listen? Why not try at first? She doesn't want to leave my team. She doesn't want to switch clubs or coaches right now. But she would if I don't at least try
Yeah.
to hear this feedback and modify. So for all of those on pandemic, it's really hard when you have a large team that's
Yeah.
now remote. Very
Yeah,
hard.
absolutely. And uh, that was something that I did get a little bit, that I think I learned a little bit during the pandemic on actually, making sure that I'm also uh, checking in with them and not just expecting them to check in with me.
Right.
When I'm seeing them face to face, it's pretty easy every single day. Hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And we kind of get the feedback. But with the remote athletes, I'll go long spans of time without hearing from somebody, and then
Yeah.
just kind of assuming that everything's going well, training's going well, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get unloaded all this information. I'm unhappy with this and that, and this and that. And I'm like, I had no idea this was going on. I didn't know you were going through this. Um,
It's stressful.
yeah, it's very stressful. It's very
Yeah.
stressful when you feel like, hey, I would be open to helping you if you communicate with me. But I think
Yes.
a lot of people have trouble with just reaching out and saying, this is how I'm feeling
Yeah.
without being prompted. And so something that I've done a little bit better job at is during the pandemic, I had to make sure that I was checking in with everybody.
Oh
And
yeah.
so just reaching out and seeing how people were doing. And I was getting a lot of feedback that I sometimes don't get when, I was just kind of letting them go and letting them train on their own. And then I also found out that some people don't do very well talking face to face.
Oh yeah.
Some
I
people
know.
did better, you know, I check in with somebody every day at the gym and ask them something, and then I send them a text message and ask them how they're doing. And at the gym, they're like, "Oh, I'm fine, no big deal."
Yeah.
And then I
Right.
send them a text message and they send me a whole novel back of all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, you're just socially, you just don't really like talking face to face. So I
Yes.
kind of found some of that stuff out too. So I think the email conversations and things like that might could probably also be very beneficial for certain athletes that just communicate better that way. Because I'd imagine some that just do remote, it's also because they prefer to be a little bit more on their own. They
Yes. Yeah.
prefer maybe not to be in the big social fear of everybody's lifting and I'm over here, don't watch me kind of thing.
Ah, yeah, and it's so funny you say that because, like, gosh, I feel like I'm having a conversation with myself, man. So thank you. Someone out there also feels my pain. It reminds me of a philosophy I have, and I try to teach my coaches who work for me the same way. As we as coaches have to realize that we're dealing with a different group, different types of people,
Hmm.
different emotional responses, different motivators and demotivators, and as such, we need to focus less on what we want to say and focus more on how it will be received.
Hmm.
And that's really hard when you have a big group of people, but that also takes
Yeah.
the other person to participate in that healthy
Yeah.
exercise of communication because I feel
Yeah.
communication resolves everything. Even if it's not an outcome you want, it's still a resolve in some way.
Absolutely.
Um, so perhaps something we can offer the group that's paying attention to us right now is, if you have a large group that's the gym is closed, maybe a good thing is ask them all, okay, who here wants to have phone calls? Who wants the text messages? Who wants the emails?
Yeah.
Um, and then you can group them. You could probably group them and have mass communication that way.
Hmm.
It's really good for community as well. Here's an example. Um, 10 people would really prefer text messages because they live on text messages, and that's okay. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Put them in a chat, and then you can communicate with them all. Hey, today's training is X, Y, and Z. Your check-in now gets exponentially delivered at once. You'll still have your private one-on-one discussions, but you might be able to cut in a ton of time, and I think the effectiveness, or I would say efficiency, is better.
Yeah.
Do the same thing with email, perhaps, and
Hmm.
heck, you're gonna have those people who'd rather DM, and oh my gosh,
Oh, I know. I feel that's the worst because those are the ones I miss the most. You know, I lose those messages like crazy. And
Yeah,
then I've
yeah,
got
those are.
some athletes that only communicate through their story. The only videos that I get is them tagging me in their story.
Oh yeah, how am I supposed to analyze that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. But let's go back to boundaries, right? Let's go back to coaches' rules, coaches' requests, coaches' desires are, you want me to see your lifts? I would love to watch them. Send it to me directly.
Yeah,
I am not one of your followers. I mean, I might be, but you get what I'm saying.
yeah,
I should not have to go search and dig through your Instagram to see a video. I need to critique for you.
yeah.
Um, it's a two-way street. We are working hard for them. They have to take accountability and go through the extra step of saving, sometimes editing the file. Athletes who might be listening to this, please, please, can you just trim it to just your
That's
lift?
that's the worst. Watching them chalk up and
Yeah,
talk to
I
their
don't.
buddy before they head over to the platform. Oh my gosh,
Yeah, I'm like
it
fast
drives me
forward, fast
crazy.
forward. Take the lift.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, not only that, you're killing my storage. You're killing my
yeah,
storage too.
yeah. I'm
Yeah,
downloading it. I'm trying to download it right now.
yeah,
At the time. So it's we joke. Well, I said this to Adam Check, and I've said this before on maybe some podcasts, and I'll say it again because I mean it's very important that we know this profession of weightlifting that you and I are doing, that many of us are doing. This is still in the history of time brand new. It just started.
hmm
Uh, no one has written the book on the how to's, how not to's, and properly be a weightlifting professional. We are currently writing it right now. Like
yeah,
all of us. You know how many things I've tried that have failed in this gym? Oh, it's unbelievable. But I continue because I want to figure it out. It's enjoyable, and I want to do everything in my power to just coach. All I want to do is coach.
hmm
It's all that I really want to do. And the people who are close to me know, and I've been saying it for years. But the reason why I still find myself on the business side and sometimes being distracted by the business side, which I don't
yeah,
want, is because really, how else am I supposed to, teach the barbell if I don't have a roof to do it under? So
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
tough balance.
That's a tough balance, and I my sole job is running my gym, and I'm also the head coach there.
Hmm.
And so it's really tough because there's times where I do have to sit down behind a computer and be programming while standing at the jerk blocks, also trying to watch six, seven people lift at a time,
Yes.
and I just can't not, I can't not run the business. I can't not, I'm gonna have to get in there and pay the bills. I'm gonna have to get on there and do some programming. I'm gonna have to do this other stuff, and some of that's just gonna happen during gym hours too.
Yeah.
And that one's
Sucks.
gonna be, yeah, it sucks. And
Yeah.
so and I currently, the gym does well enough for me and for me to support my household, but I also don't have the resources right now to hire on another, two, three coaches to stand on the floor while I'm back in the office doing paperwork,
Yes,
you
right.
know?
So I have expressed this dilemma we're discussing multiple times to, people that are close to me in my inner circle, and they've said, "Go, well, Danny, just hire somebody.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
just hire somebody to run the business."
yeah,
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, if you only knew what my bank account looked like."
yeah, I know.
I can't do that. It really doesn't work. Okay, so
Yeah,
now you have to consider an investor, and having someone come in and drop a certain amount of cash or a certain amount of percentage every month. Okay, and I've considered it. I've never done it. Considered it enough to look at the numbers. But then, am I getting into a scenario where it would eventually, sure, it'll free up my time to coach more presently and dialed in the way
yeah,
that I have known to be, but sometimes slip up? Or am I risking maybe losing the whole gym over time?
yeah,
It's really tough, and I think one day there's an answer for us, brother. There is,
yeah,
and I'm searching for it. I'll circle back, talk about a segue. Online, internet might be the way
hmm
uh, to do that, right? To do that
yeah,
because if I could find a way to replicate my coaching online or offer something online, do something online, And I've done a bit. If people follow me in this group, they've probably seen um,
Hmm.
that I've become more and more active. What I am trying to do is one, well, I just love weightlifting, right? And if you love
Yeah, yeah,
something, you want to share it with everyone. So
yeah,
I'm doing it from passion. I'm doing it to educate. I'm doing it to be yet another resource on the top of many resources out there. Just because I might have a different perspective, but I'm also doing it so that it can kind of almost handle itself, or I can do that when I am not face to face with my people out there on the floor.
hmm,
Because at the end of the day, man, my dream is to walk in my gym every day, coach reps, sets, people, session after session, go home and just die. And
yeah.
I'd be okay. And I'll be okay with that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody who tries to get into the sport and make a living in the sport, I mean, that's we're all on that same area. And but I think that's why, you have become such a good person to because you do so well at getting information out there and sharing information because there aren't a whole lot of gyms out there where coach's full-time job is the gym.
mm,
Most
right.
weightlifting gyms out there, somebody has their day job and then they go and they coach, at the gym. And so trying to figure out how do we make gyms, weightlifting clubs, a full-time job for a gym owner or a coach. It's a challenge, and that's why it's good that people like we can get together and have these conversations and try to figure this out
Yeah.
as we go.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. I think kind of looking into, I can, without my overhead going up, I know that I can expand my gym kind of online. So that might
Yeah.
be really what we're looking at as far as like some of the future of weightlifting. And
Yeah.
fortunately, a lot of people, and we've noticed this over the pandemic, a lot of people can also, have a pretty good weightlifting setup just in their garage.
Yes, they
You know?
can. And that might be not just a trend, but a indicator, a flag for coaches to become more innovative
Hmm.
on how do you connect with those people, right? So
Yeah.
maybe where 10, 15 years ago, finding an Oli barbell gym was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Now it's not as hard. There is quite a bit of options in every town.
Hmm.
Or I'm in Orlando alone. There's 5 quality, competent, good barbell gyms. They're all my competitors and they're all my colleagues. We talk often.
Yeah.
They're all 20, 30 minutes from me, and we see each other at local meets and we see each other at the national stage.
Hmm.
Maybe here we are now again, another transition into there's going to be perhaps less need for all those gyms because there's so many home gyms.
Yeah.
And so online presence is even more important. And you said a minute ago, most of the coaches most of the weightlifting coaches don't just do weightlifting. Were you aware that I was a police officer for about 13 years?
Yeah, I do think I knew that. Yeah.
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 I joke with people when you retire from the sport as an athlete, you got to go get a real job. and my real life was my other interest was law enforcement, and I got into local law enforcement. I got my degree in criminal justice. Funny, my college degree is criminal justice, and I'm not using a bit of it right now.
Yeah.
But I did both. I balanced both for many years. However, for 10 out of those 13 years, coaching was the hobby. Maybe an hour a day, a couple times a week. At a high school, I began coaching. The whole time trying to move up the ranks of USA weightlifting and become
Hmm.
an international coach fully off of hobby, passion, desire.
Yeah.
I was coaching for free for 10 years. I didn't take a penny. Man, come to think of it, my junior lifter's parents never even paid for my trips. I just did it,
Yeah.
because it meant the world to me, right? I fell in love with weightlifting the way all of you have, right? So I'm
Hmm.
not any different. I would spend money to be a coach.
Yeah.
Okay. And so then things changed. A lot of it was CrossFit, a lot of it was strength and conditioning overall.
Hmm.
Gave me exposure. Now it's booming. And I spent 3 years heavily balancing both before I made the full switch to full-time coach. And that was about 5 years ago now. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
It's actually fairly recent.
Very recent. Very
Yeah.
recent. A lot of people don't quite know that. I'm still coaching athletes right now that remember me getting off in uniform, taking it off, and getting dirty in the gym to coach every evening.
That's awesome.
So, but it can be done. It can be done. It's just it's difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Um, so, if you still got a little bit of time, um,
I do. I do.
great, great. So, as far as like continuing to grow the business, not even necessarily on just the remote side, but maybe on-site athletes and pulling athletes in general. What do you probably think is the one of the more important areas to put your time and effort in? Because it's very limited, especially for me since I'm the social media, I'm the accountant, I'm the coach, I'm the all the above.
Yeah.
So what would you consider probably the maybe prioritizing where your time and efforts go as far as trying to market to pull in more athletes? Is it stick with just making sure you're doing good programming and your athletes are learning and performing well and kind of using that as your growth, or is it maybe making sure you're producing content? You've got some books out there, getting online and doing these IG lives, or would it be just funneling money into like marketing? Like what would be kind of this hierarchy possibly of trying to probably get more athletes to kind of join your club either remotely or on site or all the above?
Okay. Yeah. Really great question. So the 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 answer to this question has changed the last month or two,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So let me answer both pre-pandemic. I'm hoping post-pandemic,
Yeah.
but during pandemic, my advice, and I'm not saying that I have it right, but I've been through it. Um, the highest priority is your commitment to dialed in, being present, coaching athletes, your product, your service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A couple years ago, I met a few newer coaches who were really excited to start coaching weightlifting locally. I helped them out. I don't see that as competition. I see that as just more inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And they would ask me a lot of questions. How do I do this? How do I do that? I'm opening my doors for the first time. Grand opening, I will go with my whole team and watch it. I don't care. Um, and the biggest thing that I started seeing, some newer coaches were spending a ton of time on marketing, making sure they had the best equipment,
Mm-hmm.
making sure they had the coolest looking logo. And I think they were spending so much time on bringing people in, but they weren't keeping them,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
It's, my analogy is, and I'm currently writing an article, and that might be out in about a month. And it's kind
Great.
of, I touch on kind of this topic. Um, you do not have to be an elite athlete to be a good coach.
Yeah.
You,
Yeah.
at all. You want to be a good coach? Well, be a good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe, and I'll meet the people halfway who have this struggle with themselves. I will say, being an advanced athlete, being a great weightlifter, is certainly giving you good attention. It might bring
Yeah.
people in, but being a good coach is what keeps them.
Yeah.
So um, I would, when these coaches would struggle, Danny, what am I doing wrong? I'm just not building a whole lot. I mean, people coming and they're quitting. And I tell them, well, how much time are you spending on what you do? And it didn't occur to them. They were focused so much on bringing people in, but are you really focusing on the people, right? Okay, so let's say you sell a product. I'm making this up. Say you sell jewelry, you sell cars. I don't know. You sell a new device. Your job is to make that product the best, highest quality, best price, and most desired.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we're not selling a product in this example. You're selling your services, your skill set. Are you really working hard on coaching people? Um,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're doing that, that almost by itself brings in the success, and it just brings it on ways like this. Uh, they are happy. First
Yeah.
of all, word of mouth. I don't have to tell you. That's
Mm-hmm.
that flies faster than anything else.
Absolutely.
Um, that happiness might turn into success. The success then becomes all your advertising for you. I have never, ever ever asked any member, make sure you tag my gym.
Hmm.
Make sure you post about me.
Yeah.
I've never had to say it. I've never even gone. I honestly feel like unless there's some sort of
Yeah.
like contractual agreement where you're given, I don't, even then I can't even, fathom because I do come from the old school and I just think it might change the relationship a little bit, Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, so
They're now doing something for us. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it sets a really weird vibe,
Yeah.
and I've seen it. And that's one thing I never screwed up because I never did it. I just watched other coaches go through
Hmm.
that scenario. In fact, here's another one: learning from other people's mistakes. I have acquired over the years, maybe athletes here and there who switched to me. I call the coach appropriately, and we go through the process and make sure that it's done the right way. And now
Hmm.
I have them. And then later on, one of the things that they slip is, coach used to get mad at me. My old coach used to get mad at me if I didn't promote the gym. And I just thought that was, in my opinion, I'm not disrespecting anyone who might be watching who does
Yeah.
that. I am just saying that I prefer not to do that. So,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely.
but I did find that if I'm working really hard in coaching and it's working and these athletes are producing and maybe they're winning local medals, you don't have to be a champion necessarily, but let's just go your local area, um, and hitting PRs. Well, they're so happy they want to share their experience. They're going to
Yeah.
tag you anyway.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and your marketing is the success of the clientele's experience. It may feel like it's taking longer, but that's more sustainable.
Yeah.
Uh, Now people are promoting you or mentioning you because they really want to, and they bring in friends and they do all that. Now, I'm not saying you can't have an Instagram. I'm not saying you can't work on that. You have to work on that.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that that's the priority. The priority is what is it that you're doing? What's the quality of your coaching? Now, I'll end by saying that has been my philosophy for years,
Hmm.
and helping coaches direct on just being a better coach, being a better connector, and helping people out. But this pandemic, here's the problem: there's no meets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, there's no camps. So now you might be missing, kind of that element.
Hmm.
I would probably still fall back during pandemic. Coach, you have more time to check in with the athletes first. You
Yeah.
just mentioned it.
Yeah.
You have more time to maybe get into a more thoughtful, lengthier program cycle, perhaps.
Hmm. Yeah.
You have more time to read, more time to listen, more time to pay attention. And if you can convert that into the coaching online, I still feel that that whole marketing and everything else kind of just happens on its own. So
Hmm.
that's where I'm at on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would 100% agree. That's from day one. I've always said that my goal is just to be on the floor again. I was also very anti-remote, and I'm also probably the last person that should be giving any tips on social media as well, because I was pre all that when we were weightlifting. I mean, it's hard to find videos of me weightlifting back in the day, just because it wasn't, we weren't recording back then. There was nothing out there.
Yeah, you did,
Um,
but it was on VHS, and I don't know that
Yeah, yeah,
anybody knows what.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was like when the first phone had like a camera and it was all grainy. I think I've got maybe
Yeah,
some of those out there somewhere. Um, but yeah, I mean, the goal was always to just make the athletes as good as possible, and give them as much attention as possible. And from that, athletes going to local meets and things like that, others start to see my interaction with the athletes. Others start to see our athletes and how they're doing and enjoying their experience there. And I think that was always a huge success for us is to also get our athletes out of the gym and going and competing at local meets, going and competing at national meets and stuff like that. That was also a big part of it. And then them, doing well and sometimes not so well, but also, seeing. And what I enjoyed about that is even those that had a hard experience, they'll sometimes come back and we'll talk, they'll reflect, and then they'll post something. They'll be like, "This weekend I bombed out. but I really learned this, this, and this, and I'm looking forward to where, our conversation that we had and where we're going with that. And they start seeing this dynamic of our gym with athletes and completely unprompted. And so, yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. And I'm glad to know that that's also something that you really value because I sometimes feel like I look at some of these other Instagrams that have so many thousands and thousands of people and these people that are producing content like crazy. And sometimes when times get a little bit hard, I'm like, is that what I should be putting more time and effort into? Or do I need to, and my wife reels me back on this pretty often, or do I just really need to make sure that I'm taking care of the people that I have in my gym right now?
The latter.
Yeah,
The latter. Trust
exactly.
me, the latter, because even the greatest content out there, and man, there's some good stuff out there. Heck, I learned still from this day, even sometimes how to reword something I already agree with out there. You always get the people to say, well, this is really good stuff, but is the producer of that content actually producing athletes?
Hmm. Yeah,
Right? That's a question that we often have. And I've seen it myself. Great information, but what has that person done? What has that person, who has that person developed? I think, to piggyback off of something else you said about the experiences of your own athletes is like, I feel like it's easy when things are going well. And I think our coaching is really smooth when the athlete is happy, but our skill set really gets tested most when there's a problem.
hmm,
And I think when the athletes come across a conflict, whatever that might be, they plateau. I don't know. They're not hitting PRs, or
yeah,
they're hitting PRs in one thing or another. Or this one, they go 6 for 6 at a competition, medals, bring it home, and they're still pissed off. And you're like, what are you so upset about? You had a perfect
yeah,
day. And they say, I've done more in training. Well, who cares that you've done more
yeah,
in training?
yeah.
There's always,
Or my favorite one is like they'll they'll hit their lift and they're like, yeah, I'm good for like another 7 kilos, and then I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're good for like another 4 kilos. So we put those 4 kilos in, they hit it, and they're like, I told you I could have done seven.
yeah, right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know that's not the case. Do you
Yeah.
have to do you have to fail in order to realize you did well? I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't know. I don't know.
It,
It's like there some are more satisfied if they put the weight on the bar and miss it than if
yeah.
they did something less and made it.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's crazy. It's crazy. And you know what's funny is I think I probably felt the same when I was the athlete, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I get it. But I wouldn't question yourself and the people who might be following, our chat today too. When you are having tough times, should you be the one writing books and writing articles? Do that. Anyone who's listening, do that. And I'm proud that I've been able to do some of it
Hmm.
because you want to, not because you
Yeah,
have to do it, right?
yeah.
I think the answer when times are tough is maybe be more innovative in ways to offer more services, more like search seminars, clinics, more
Hmm.
short-term things. Perhaps I think sometimes my biggest financial survivor isn't the membership base,
Yeah.
honestly. I wish it was, but maybe the answer, and that's the thing about weightlifting, it's very coach intensive when it
Hmm.
comes to weightlifting. Look, I love CrossFit. I owned a CrossFit affiliate for 7 years. I do more Metcons right now than anything else.
Yeah.
I've never been a CrossFit hater. I embraced it early on, 2007. In fact, I got into CrossFit.
That was actually when 2007 was the year I got certified in CrossFit.
Yeah, okay, I was 2 years
Yeah,
behind you.
yeah, yeah.
I finally got my cert 2 years after that. I did a ton of it before the cert.
Hmm.
But I say, all of that because when you're coaching a CrossFit class, you don't necessarily need to see every single burpee. You don't need to see every single rep. You don't need to see every single pull up. You don't have to judge every single thing necessarily. You're there to motivate, make sure nobody gets hurt. You're supervising and you're watching it and you're paying attention. But see, in weightlifting, every set, someone will drop a barbell and they look at you for some sort of feedback.
Yeah,
Every single rep, even when it's good. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's when it really sucks because your answer is they say, Coach, how was that? And you go, good. And they go, no, but seriously, like, what did I do
Uh-huh.
wrong? You didn't do anything wrong,
Yeah,
you know? So very coach intensive. But
yeah,
I would,
yeah. And I've talked on that before too. Like, and also like if you give them something to work on, then they need to like just go work on it for a while. Like they don't need you to change something every single set. And some athletes really want this feedback on every single thing they're doing. And it's like, no, just practice it for about 10 reps, and then I'm going to circle back around and take a look at it. You
yeah,
know?
right. Yeah, yeah. There's a whole lot of value in shut up, coach. Let them
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I think I'm about a couple minutes out, brother, before I have to go.
Yeah, for sure. Here's a good way to plug yourself real quick. Somebody asked if there's any good places or books out there on weightlifting and weightlifting programming.
Yes,
You have some
my gym.
yourself, don't you?
I do. I do. There's quite a bit of real good ones out there that have nothing to do with me, honestly. I am currently offering online. I do not want to call it templated programming. I tried that. Remember a few minutes ago,
Hmm.
I told you. Do you know how many things I've tried and failed at?
Yeah.
The flip to that is, my recommendation to the athletes that are listening to this, there's no such thing as a perfect program. It's an unrealistic expectation to shop around for a perfect program
Yeah.
because even if you hired someone to go from scratch and design you a customization, individualized just for you, there'll be so many changes week to week based on your response
Hmm.
to it that is still not perfect. It's
Yeah.
constantly it's the coaching behind it. But having said that, I recently linked up with Train Heroic, and I am offering group training. There's programming, there's communications with me directly. And I'm not on there every single day, but I do monitor what's going on, and I'm constantly putting up more and more programs. There'll be 10-week cycles, 8-week cycles, three times a week, fourth a variation. In fact, it's very similar to how I'm running my gym, but it's for the masses out there in the world who don't have a coach. And I'm saying I'm offering this because I am not looking to have anyone follow my stuff who already has a team, who already has a coach. This is really for the people who don't have any help.
Yeah.
Um, and there's other things out there too. Cal Strength is a great one, and as actually I linked up with them, and much of what I am currently doing now through Train Heroic mirrors and has I'm influenced by what Cal Strength has done,
Well,
and what Dave Spitz out there. And so I'm dropping his name because I thank him a lot for some of the conversations we've had. I'm 20 years into coaching, and there are still some things I am changing around.
yeah. Yeah.
Um, there's no destination, man. I don't think I'll ever get to where I want to be, right? And
Yeah.
I think even when I get there, dude, I think even when I get to where there might be, um, if I do, I probably would land there and look around and think, okay, how do I make this better? You know?
Yeah, yeah, it's so I mean that's what's so great about sport in general is there's always it never just stops.
Yes.
There's not really an end, and so we
Oh,
can always get better. We can always learn more,
right.
and yeah, it's great. It looks like Instagram's about to kick us off. So, Coach, I
Ah,
really wanted to thank you for jumping on here, man. I really appreciate it. Lots of great information, lots of stuff that's going to help me kind of get some direction, especially now that I'm kind of reopening the gym. It's going to
yeah.
be a great time for me to kind of implement some new things, especially kind of in the circumstances we're in. So I really appreciate your timing on this and being so willing to get on here and get this information out.
Yeah, let's do
Not
it
only
again.
will I not only will I repost this, I'll also just post our conversation on our podcast. So I'll share that over with you. And if there's any information you want linked in that, just shoot it over to me via email.
You got it, because I live on email, man. I already told you that.
That's
So,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks a
I,
lot, Coach.
you're welcome. I'd love to do it again. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.
Bye bye.